Hello, thank you for your interest in Patricia Burda Janeckova. This is actually an experiment. It is the first time that I make a kind of audiobook about her in the hope that her name will spread further around our world. Patricia deserves it. I would also like to do it in several other languages, but it is a lot of work and I am not sure if you will like it this way. Please let me know in the comments. If you don't like it, you can also say so, of course, that is how I learn. This is about a written interview in the Young Front Magazine DNES from the Czech Republic. Given by Patricia on March 16, 2023. The text is by SCARLETT WILKOVÁ. Patricia takes us through everything she has experienced during her treatment, which has just ended.
Prodigy. That's what was said about her when she won the Talent Mania competition. She was 12, she sang opera arias with ease, and Karel Gott, Peter Dvorsky and other stars expressed their amazement. Surviving success at such a young age was a tough test. However, she underwent a much harder one now. Patricia, what do you remember about the day you found out you had breast cancer?
I remember everything from that day exactly. It was last year on January 31, 2022, a Monday. And it was beautiful. The sun was shining, the roads and trees were frozen, so everything glistened in the sunshine. The doctor called me saying that I should come as soon as possible to get the results, because she can't tell me them on the phone. My partner drove me to her. I remember that when I came out of the hospital, it was already cloudy. These are details that I will probably remember for the rest of my life.
Can such a report be believed at all at the age of 23?
Maybe age doesn't play such a role. You never want to hear this information.
I understand, but after all, there is a difference when a woman in her 60s hears it, and when she is 23, isn't it?
Of course it was a huge shock. At first I wondered if I would be able to have children. If I ever get over it. Initially, the doctor told me that it was inflammation of the mammary gland. Well, it wasn't. I went for another examination. I drove calmly for the results. I didn't think I could hear such bad news. Within minutes, my life completely turned around. And even in such a situation you have to be stronger than others.
How so?
You have the task of informing your loved ones.
Which method did you choose?
My partner was waiting for me at the hospital in the car, so he was the only one who heard it face to face. Mom and sister live in Bratislava, so there was no other option but to call. I also called my singing teacher and manager. The reactions were completely different. In such a situation, it becomes clear who can cope with bad news and how. Of course, my mother took it the worst. I had to calm her down. But I'm not the type to break down, so I told everyone that we have to take it as a fact and believe that it will be good.
It is paradoxical that most of the time the sick behave braver than us, who do not know how to react, what to say.
But that's natural. No one hears news like this normally, it's always a premiere.
In what situation did the disease catch you? Did you have a lot of work, big plans?
I was cast in the lead role at the Antonin Dvořák Theatre in Ostrava. I was supposed to play Smetana's Two Widows. That was the first big thing I had to let go of. Another one got me a little confused while studying in college. I had the lead role in the operetta ball at the Savoy Hotel at the State Opera in Prague, and I wrote it as a topic for my master's thesis. Since I couldn't rehearse and then even perform, I lost the topic for my master's thesis at the same time. Of course, there were many other concerts in the framework of various festivals before me. Everything had to be interrupted.
You quite openly shared the course of treatment on social networks. Is it because it's normal for your generation to share everything, or was there another reason?
I knew from the beginning that I would not hide the disease. I didn't want anyone to have the feeling that I was cancelling the show just because I was lazy. At the same time, I'm not one to pour my heart out publicly, so I decided to share the disease in a purely informative way. I wrote what awaits me each week, what I have accomplished. I kept my emotions for those closest to me. I didn't share what I was really experiencing because it was incommunicable anyway.
You also showed quite rough pictures when you are in the hospital, without hair.
It took me about 3 months before I decided to post the photo. Let's face it, hair is important to us women. When a woman chooses to cut her hair short or shave her head of her own volition, voluntarily, it is different from being forced to do so by treatment. The feedback was positive. People still tell me that short hair looks good on me, but for me, short hair is a reminder of the bad I've been through. Takes me back to a bad time. I'm looking forward to having my long hair again.
Until then, everything seemed to be going exceptionally well for you. You were said to be a child prodigy. Was it so, or was it more about appearances from the outside?
I didn't feel like I was doing anything special. I sang because I enjoyed it and I was good at it. I would definitely not call myself a prodigy, but maybe it could seem that way to someone. I started singing at the age of 4, basically the same as other children in the choir. My parents signed me up for various choirs, but I gradually left them and stayed with singing. Over time, elementary art school wasn't enough for me. I wanted to sing something harder, but it wasn't possible there.
Why?
Singing teachers must follow a certain curriculum. It is precisely given which repertoire belongs to which year. And I always wanted to sing something heavier. At the age of 8, I auditioned for Lena Ivoca, who runs the children's opera studio at the Antonín Dvůr Theatre. Then I entered the conservatory, then the Faculty of Arts of the University of Ostrava, where I studied opera singing. For years, I have been taught by the same professor, Eva Drizgova, the First Lady of the Ostrava Opera. My beginnings were completely ordinary, everything came over time.
After all, it's not usual for a little girl to sing opera arias. Weren't you a little exotic among your peers?
Sometimes I made them laugh. But opera was natural for me. My father is a double bassist in the Janečková Philharmonic, the mother used to play the violin. Since I was a child, they took me to the theatre and to concerts. We had a large collection of CDs with classical music at home. I listened to them. I liked the music better than what was on the radio.
Children who devote themselves to a field intensively and at a high level sometimes say after a while that they lost their so-called ordinary childhood. Wasn't that your case too?
It was at the expense of childhood. I spent little time with my peers. I often went to performances. I always had to learn something new. And learning mathematics and physics in elementary school was hell for me. I seemed to have everything going well and a great life, but it was challenging at times.
How did you manage to win Talent Mania? You were only 12 and suddenly you were giving interviews. You were being talked about and written about everywhere.
The competition itself was fine. I always came, sang, bowed and left again. I didn't enjoy it at all. I enjoyed singing and I didn't care if I won or not. I was still a child. After the victory, a more difficult chapter began. I was not used to microphones, cameras, voice recorders. I couldn't talk to adults. I was shy.
Did you enjoy the success at all?
But it does. Interesting offers came. My life changed. I sang with Peter Dvorsky, with Adam Plashetka. Karel Gott christened my CD. This is actually incomprehensible to me to this day and I appreciate it very much. I had the opportunity to sing with the Czech Philharmonic, the Czech Radio Symphony Orchestra, the Zlín, Brno and Ostrava Philharmonic Orchestras. These are huge bodies and standing in front of them is an experience, even greater for a child. It is a great power and a hard to describe feeling when a big orchestra is playing behind you.
Didn't you go through a period when you started to miss not hanging out with your friends, like other girls at 15 or 16?
I stopped enjoying singing at the conservatory. It was time for me to burn out. I felt certain pressures and started to ask myself, am I doing this primarily for myself or for someone else?
What do you mean by pressure?
For example, I took part in the Peter Dvorsky competition in Karlovy Vary. It is a very well-known singing competition. I finished third, which was a huge achievement because I was singing in a higher age category than I should have been. When I came back, some people around me asked why I wasn't the first. Everyone kept telling me I was the best, and suddenly I wasn't the first. Third place was a huge success for me. But few appreciated it.
This is similar to when athletes describe how frustrating they are when everyone always expects them to perform at their best.
It's similar. Expectations tend to be high. In addition, I had a fairly strict upbringing. My parents didn't just let me out, and in retrospect I understand that. It is good to have the child under control. On the other hand, it is necessary to maintain some measure. So I tried to catch up with everything when I moved away from my parents.
Have you ever wondered if the constant pressure to perform and a lot of responsibilities did not bring stress, and if it could be one of the causes of the disease?
The doctors told me that there could be many factors, but it's true that I didn't have much time for myself. My life once consisted of packing a suitcase, going somewhere, singing there, then driving back, doing laundry, packing another suitcase and going again. There is a lot of talk about stress these days. He might have had some influence, but he might not have. I don't know. There's no point in looking back on it. I want to remember the good things that I experienced thanks to traveling. I performed in various places in Europe. An unforgettable experience was a work trip to Mexico. At the age of 16, I won a sacred music competition in Rome. I also like to remember that, thanks to that I was in Rome for the first time, which I fell in love with.
How are you living now?
I am shortly after the end of treatment. I try to have more time for myself. I returned to the G. Myron Theatre, where I was a guest before. We just premiered the musical Sweeney Todd, The Devil's Barber. I'm dusting off older productions, more are coming. I missed the theatre. Even during the most difficult chemotherapy that took place last spring, when I was totally drained, I missed so much that I just gained a little strength. I went to play 2 shows. I remember my colleagues wondering what I was doing there when I was sick. But the shows helped me, they gave me hope to come back.
What was it like to slow down from the original hectic life?
Our life is very fast. We are still in a hurry, we are working. Suddenly you are lying at home and have time to think. You have to save your strength for every other day. It was as if my world had stopped, but it was running normally. What I once considered natural was suddenly rare. I imagined what it would be like if I could pick myself up, go somewhere, experience something there. The normal thing of going out has become extraordinary. I had to keep my distance from people, my immunity was basically zero, anything that could endanger me. A minimum of people came to me, and even then in masks.
What gave you the most hope?
My partner. He didn't give up, he went through with me, even though he knew he was going to have a tough year. He did it brilliantly. He is an actor in the arena chamber stage, of course he had to work. When there was a threat that I would have to be home alone for a long time, my mother would sometimes come from Bratislava. Our 2 dogs also helped me.
What do you have?
We have an older hybrid who already likes his peace. When I got sick, we bought a Dalmatian puppy so that there would be joy, energy and life at home.
What did the treatment actually entail?
16 chemo treatments. Basically, I was always in the hospital from January to July. I had surgery in August. After a month of recovery, I started radiation. This went on for a month, every day except weekends. I also drank various supporting teas and juices, but I decided to trust doctors and modern medicine above all.
Did you feel like it was a lost year?
At first I thought I would lose a lot of time. But then some moments dragged on endlessly and others went by nicely. I was also afraid that I would not get back into the shape I was in before the illness.
Like it won't sing so well to you anymore?
I was emaciated, I weighed under 50 kilos after chemotherapy. Opera singing is hard work, so I wasn't sure if I could do it. Vocal cords are a muscle, they need training. It's similar to when a runner doesn't train, he also runs less. So now I'm starting to struggle. I need to get back in shape to tighten everything up physically. But it's getting started. I have offers for some festivals. Maybe in a year I'll be where I was.
Was there anything good about that year? When someone survives a serious illness, They sometimes say that their view of the world has changed.
There was probably nothing good about it. Maybe it's that I've learned to take time for myself. I also learned who is worth being with and who is not. Well, if I helped someone who is experiencing the same thing by sharing the disease, I would be happy about that.
Thank you for this interview, Patricia.
I thank you too.
Now Patricia is left the interview, I want to say this. The first time we spoke, it was her first big interview after winning the competition. She was slightly embarrassed and unsure. She even remembers where it was and what she was wearing. Someone completely different is sitting in front of me now. And although we have a much more difficult and unpleasant topic, she is no longer embarrassed or uncertain. It is known that she is not easy to talk about some things, but she decided to handle it. She's already a young lady who isn't easily distracted.
We have heard Patricia's story up until today, March 16, 2023. She hopes to be back to normal in a year. It's so difficult. We now know how everything went. But she didn't end the interview there. She ended by saying that she would be happy that she might have helped someone with the way she showed her illness. Beautiful words. Patricia was a special person, and she touched the hearts of so many people all over the world. Thank you for watching or listening to this audiobook.